Okay, so back in the 1500s, the reformers were not... they weren't subtle. They straight up looked at the system in power and said, "That's him, boys, the Antichrist. Right here, right now. Not what you see on YouTube, no 666 drones or whatever. They meant right here, the system. And hey, look, I mean, they pointed the finger. It was like a courtroom drama. They were the witnesses, the eyewitnesses. The accusation was out there in the public domain. It was basically 5 dudes standing over the villain like, yeah, bro, we got him." But then a guy enters the room.
Bro
And
thinks
this
he's
dude
him.
is just
Okay,
strutting.
Ribera.
Tall, athletic, handsome. Crazy calm. The kind of guy where the whole room just goes. The reformers look at him and be like, "There's 5 of us and only 1 of him. We can stop this." But what they don't realize, this wasn't just any guy. No way. This was Francisco Ribera, Papacy Special Ops. Papacy Special Ops. This guy had trained for this moment. And I mean, trained. And before the reformers could even think, could even say, "Let's shut this down," Ribera had already started executing the escape plan. Not with a sword fight, no dramatic showdown. Way more dangerous than that. He built a legal defense. He took the accusation out of the room and walked it into the minds of scholars, universities, seminaries, future generations. So what was his big move? His legal argument. He says, "The Antichrist doesn't exist today. It won't exist until hundreds of years from now." And just like that, eyewitness testimony started getting swapped out for a future theory. A theory with no eyewitnesses. And that theory moved through Darby, Schofield, 1980s prophecy conferences, where we were all supposed to be chipped by now. And today, most churches teach this future Antichrist theory. So it's all over YouTube. And nobody knows or cares about how it began with the reformers. We've forgotten about them and their eyewitness testimony. That's not the story that's being taught today. And that's why I made the story arc, so we know how we got here. Short anime stories. How a live accusation became a future theory. How eyewitnesses got replaced by speculation. How the villain was never removed, only moved out of frame. And now, that case is officially closed. So the only question left is, what comes next? The story arc is done. The historical reading isn't just one option among many, it's the only one that still matches the eyewitnesses. If the eyewitnesses were right, then where does revelation unfold in history? Not in theory, not in imagination, not in some permanently delayed future, but in history, over time, across centuries, in real kingdoms, real systems, real events, real consequences. And that is the next project, revelation unfolding in history. Because if you're going to follow the witnesses, then eventually you have to follow the book the same way. Seals, trumpets, beasts, witnesses, kingdoms, rises, falls, misdirections, not floating in mid-air, but anchored in the real world. Because honestly, that's the only reading that still makes sense to me if eyewitness testimony means anything at all. And if I'm going to take the eyewitnesses seriously, then I also have to take seriously the kind of interpretation that actually fits them. So yes, the story arc is over. But in another sense, it feels like we've only just cleared the ground. Because now we have to ask the bigger question. Not just who changed the story, but what the story actually was. And I'll be honest, this next project is slightly more ambitious. Because this time, we're not just dealing with one debate in the 1500s. This time, we're trying to cover 2,500 years of history. Which is a lot. That is a lot of history, a lot of scenes, a lot of kingdoms, and unfortunately, a lot of backdrops. And that means we may have a small practical problem. Because if Diana and Daniel are going to keep making homemade YouTube history in an apartment, we're probably going to need extra help with the props. Because I'm not fully convinced the wooden spoon and the broomstick are going to carry us through 2,500 years. They've served bravely. They've done their part, but I just don't think they can handle the full burden of revelation unfolding through history. At some point, we may need more than a blanket, a chair, and Daniel looking intense in the corner. Although, to be fair, that has gotten us surprisingly far. But that's part of why I'm excited, because this next chapter feels bigger, not just in timeline, but in scope. The story arc helped us settle the question of eyewitnesses versus theory. Now the next project asks, if we follow the eyewitnesses, where do they lead us in Revelation itself? And that is a journey I really want to take. Carefully, honestly, and yes, probably with some very questionable props. But I think it's worth doing, because once you see the misdirection, once you see the greatest misdirection in church history for what it was, you can't really go back to pretending the question doesn't matter. The question does matter. And the witnesses do matter. And history matters. So, the story arc is closed, but the next file is open. Revelation unfolding in history begins next. And this time, we may need more than a broomstick.